welcome to Calling Peace in War Times. This is part 2 to Atonism, Akhenaton, his spirit, and young Pharaoh. Alright, we're going to get to it. It's just a lot of ground we have to cover before we get to that, because this is a very big subject. So bear with me, and you're going to learn a lot. Stuff you didn't know, you're going to really learn it. And I hope you appreciate how Newport Noon bring forth the information. All right, let's start. All right, so we went through this already, but I like to just keep bringing it in. So letting you know now we going into the next phase. Now we finna go into Thutmose, the first. All right, so it says the Phoenicians originally came from Asia and were invaders of Egypt themselves around 3000 BC. Moses was a ruler of Egypt, and his title was Thutmose I. He was the beginning of the Moon Dynasty in Egypt around 1600 BC. The next point is to focus on is the pharaoh Thutmose I, whose Kemetic name was Thutmose I, born of the god Djehuti or Tehuti. All right, there's a stone head most likely depicting Thutmose I at the British Museum. Amenemhat stated Djehuti, his throne name was Akhenaton. Thutmose I was the beginning of the moon cycle in Egypt, Kemet. The moon cycle had already been in play on Earth about 2,400 years under Tehuti's reign. However, it took that long to get Tehuti, the moon god, incarnated into this man to set up shop to start changing the sun worship from Amun-Ra to lunar worship a few pharaohs later. In the last video, this writer has established that these Phoenician Arab Berbers were invaders of Kemet, and they were not kinky-haired Africans. Many people of the African race who study the dynastic periods give so much respect and honor to this pharaoh, not connecting the dots. Let's look at some of his history. Upon Thutmose's coronation, Nubia rebelled against Egyptian rule. According to the tomb autobiography of Ahmose, son of Ibana, Thutmose traveled up the Nile and fought in the battle, personally killing the Nubian king. Upon victory, he had the Nubian king's body hung from the prow of his ship before he returned to Thebes. After that campaign, he led a second expedition against Nubia. In his third year, in the course of which he ordered the canal of the first cataract, which he had built up under Sesostris III of the 12th dynasty, to be dredged in order to facilitate easier travel upstream from Egypt to Nubia. This helped integrate Nubia into the Egyptian empire. This expedition is mentioned in two separate inscriptions by the king's sons, Thutmose, rebellious in the south. Thutmose had to face one more military threat, another rebellion by Nubia in his fourth year. His influence accordingly expanded even farther south, as an inscription dated to his reign has been found as far south as Kurugus, which was south of the fourth cataract. He inscribed a large tableau on the Hagar el Merwa, a quartz outcrop 40 meters long and 50 meters wide, located 1,200 miles from the Nile, on top of several local inscriptions. This is the farthest south the Egyptian presence is attested. During his reign, he initiated a number of projects which effectively ended Nubian independence for the next 500 years. He enlarged a temple to Sesostris III in Khnum, opposite the Nile from Semna. There are also records of specific religious rites which the viceroy of El Kab was to have performed in the temples in Nubia in proxy for the king. He also appointed a man called Turi to the position of viceroy of Kush, also known as the king's son of Kush, with a civilian representative of the king permanently established in Nubia itself Nubia did not dare to revolt as often as it had. It was easily controlled by future Egyptian kings. In his second year, Thutmose led a river-borne expedition deep into Nubia, beyond his predecessor's frontier, as shown by inscription carved along the way. He thrusted past the fourth Nile cataract and set up a new boundary at Coregent. The venture is attested by the biographies of two Upper Egyptians who were among the forces that made the campaign. One reason for the deep thrust into Nubia was the land's rich gold deposits, which were intensely exploited during the 18th dynasty, 1539 to 1292 BCE. Excuse me. Listen to sound right, cause and reason. It is part of life that kings and kingdoms go to war. This is a feature of the bottom half of existence. However, sound right reason's take on this topic is to show how this Phoenician Arab pharaoh attacked Nubians, also known as Africans today, for our land and resources since the fall of the 6th dynasty, 2460 to 2200 BC, which set Nubian modern Sudan back 500 years. The violence and disrespect of doing that to a king's body shows how the Arabs of today destroy their own bodies for their beliefs and spreading of power for their religion, Islam. These Phoenician Arabs put the African race through slavery, trade, rape. All right, these some pictures I found. This is scope of the Arab slave trade. And some of these lands up here in the colors. That's another one. Scope of the slave trade in the green, and some of these trade routes. Excuse me. Note on the slave trade, it is estimated that around 12 million Africans were taken during the entire slave trade. Many men and children were taken and sold to be used for labor as servants. Women were many taken and sold to be used as servants and concubines. The slave trade declined and officially ended as more countries began to outlaw slavery and their religion of the Ethiopian race, even up to this day. Look at all these Africans. Look at them, all trapped in Islam. After all that they did to us, the spell of religion is deep. Listen to reason. At this point on the topic about religion, the writer wishes to disclose these very important facts about the nature of religion, which most members of the Ethiopian race do not know. All religions have or had physical, visible creators and carriers of those religions, and those visible creators are the physical representations of the invisible forces that they represent. Hence, the physical, visible creators of a religion are the physical, visible God of their religion, yet giving all due credit, respect, and honor to the invisible. The point is this: when a member of the Ethiopian race accepts the religion of another ethnic race as his own, he or she should know that he or she has accepted the race who created that religion as his or her visible God, and neither can that adopted member convert become equal with nor ever obtain power over his physical, visible religion God. The ethnic race who created the religion, let it be remembered always and be it known. Listen to reason. The examples and point are this: if a member of the Ethiopian race accepts Islam as his or her religion, he or she has accepted the Phoenician race as his or her visible God. Introduction to the Nature, Book 1, pages 229 to 230. Now we move on to the second point. Foink monkey was the first ape-man people along the chimpanzee order of primates, and they finally evolved from anthropoid ape-man and ape-woman into erectopus, that is to say, modern man, called the Phoenician race. The Phoenician race are people like Arabs, Spaniards, Turks, and Latinos. It is true that modern man, the man-kinoid races, evolved from ape man and not anthropoid ape, meaning modern man was created as ape man from the start. Pages 113, 115, and 117 ahead in this topic depict somewhat what members of the human races look like at their origins. and Sheikh 31 and 35 on page 68. Here, Afro-Unu stated the Phoenician Arab race and its branches evolved from anthropoid monkey. Let's define this word and its meaning. Or ape-like man. All right, man-like. This is what anthropoid means. Man-like, especially in zoology, human or simian of humans and monkeys, as opposed to lemurs and other lower primates, from Greek anthropoidos, like a man, resembling a man in human form. Anthropo and oid as a noun. The Greek noun in this sense was anthroparian, related to anthropodial. All right, ape man, also defined as hypothetical missing link between the highest anthropoid ape and human beings, progenitor of the human race, 1869, and a transition of Haeckel from ape plus man. Man-ape is attested from 1823 as anthropoid ape orangutan. The name Martin half-ape appears in English roll from 1227 AD. Listen to reason. Physical tar after death and extinction became physical monkey, the direct ancestry and or origin of mankind. Monkey produced monkey as human beings took the shape of ape man, ape-like men and women from their conception at birth. Therefore, there's a missing link between ape man and ape, which will never be found, and this means that man evolved from ape man, monkey, and not from ape. The word monkey means man-like and mankind and moon-key, whereas Tarkine, kinky-haired people, so is direct descendants of the sun. Mankind, straight-haired people, is direct descendants of the sun by way of the moon, who started using the powers of the sun in much greater opposition after the sun's died scientific death at the point 6 west on the Smat Circle of Order. See figure 6 in part 2 of these writings. Introduction to the Nature, book 1, page 215. Listen to reason. The word monkey means moon key and also mankind, which are other ways of saying moonkind, and indeed the name Foink, pronounced Foink, means the sun by way of the moon, as in Phobos, Phoebe, and Phoenix. So the phrase and expression Foink monkey means people of the sun via the moon. Listen to sound right cosmic reason. Before this writer moves on, remember the Phoenician Arab race and other family haplogroups that were spoken of. We, Nupu, instructed this writer to look up the words our great nephew, Afro-Unu, written above. Please pay attention, namely Phobos, Phoebe, and Phoenix. Let's define the word Phoenix. A mythical bird of great beauty worshipped in Egypt. Old English and Old French phoenix from medieval Latin, phoenix from Latin, phoenix from Greek, phoenix. The bird was the only of its kind, and after living 500 or 600 years in the Arabian wilderness, built for itself a funeral pile of spices and aromatic gums, lighted the pile with the fanning of its wings, and was burned upon it, but from its ashes revived in the freshness of youth. Century Dictionary. Compare Phoenician, which seems to be unrelated. Forms and ph began to appear in English late 15th century, and the spelling was assimilated in Greek in 16C. All right, figurative sense of that which rises from the ashes of what was destroyed in the tested 1590s. The constellation was one of the 11 added to Ptolemy's list in the 1610s by Flemish cartographer Petrus Plancius, 1552 to 1622. After Europeans began to explore the southern hemisphere, the city in Arizona, U.S. was so called because it was founded in 1867 on the site of an ancient Native American settlement. All right, so we have the Phoenix, which is a constellation. Listen to reason. The Mongoloid race is all people who grow genuine, wavy hair on their heads by nature anywhere in the universes. A member of the Ethiopian race may philosophically be called a pitch nova, pronounced pitch nova, and pitch nova means, among other positive things, the black new star. A member of the Phoenician race may philosophically be called foink, pronounced foink, and fonk indeed means, among other positive things, fire beings. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 2, page 118 in part. Let's reread this part from the nature books again. Listen to reason. The word monkey means moon key and also mankind, which are other ways of saying moonkind. And indeed, the name Foink Monk, indeed, Foink means the sun by way of the moon, as in Thebes, or Phobos, Phoebe, and Phoenix. So the phrase and expression Foink Monkey means people of the sun via the moon. Listen to reason. Physical Tau after death and extinction became physical monkey, the direct ancestry, origin of mankind. Monkey, pronounced monkey, as humans, beings took the shape of ape-like men and women from their conception at birth. Therefore, there's a missing link between ape-man, and ape, which will never be found. And this means that man evolved from ape-man monkey and not from ape. The word monkey means man-like and mankind and moon key. Whereas Tarkan, kink-haired people, so is a direct descendant of the sun. Mankind, straight-haired people, is direct descendants of the sun by way of the moon, who started using the powers of the sun in much greater opposition after the sun's died scientific death at point 6 west on the smat circle of order. See figure 6 in part 2 of these writings. And the moon stopped turning on its own axis and began dragging through space around orb Earth instead of rotating on its own axis like it had been doing before. Nature died what is called scientific death at point 6 east. Let it be remembered always, let it be known. Introduction to the Nature of Nature, Book 2, pages 215 to 216. Listen to sound right cosmic reason. The phoenix bird has two meanings when looked at it through the lens of noon science. The phoenix before it dies is in a state of the universes in nine ether. The suns are the phoenix bird at birth for 36 million years. After nine ether gases start declining in energies, nine ether via the suns die a scientific death, meaning nine ether and six ether are opposites in absolute nature, and they alternate existing. They both can exist in the same place but not at the same time in the form of spirit beings. The positive, the nine, controlling and supports the living, and the negative, six, supports and controls the dead. A living being is indeed scientifically dead when its life-giving chemicals are not sufficient enough to maintain the positive standards and qualities and values of nature and protect the being from physical death continuously, as in the case of scientific life. So nine ether is the life of the scientifically living, top half of the smat circle, and six ether is the life and death of the scientifically dead, bottom half of the smat circle of order. Let it be remembered always and let it be known. Introduction to the Nature, Book 1, pages 61 through 62 in part. When your ancestors of Kemet described this change in all of existence, it was called the duat or tuat. The entire existence, space, matter, and time, aka the one supreme being, aka the nature of nature, aka netter of netters, guardians of guardians, god of gods. As a matter of fact, the symbol for a star in the hieroglyphs and the duet is the actual smat circle of order. Of course, it has changed down through evolution. So here you have the star or Seba, and this is the symbol of the duat. Okay. Now here is the smat circle coming out of Introduction to the Nature, Book 3. All right, so pay attention to this very well. All right, you see that? All right, so we come down here. All right, so I drew this so you can understand what the star also represents. We can go a little further. Listen to sound right cosmic reason. The star in 14 hieroglyph has 4 points as seen on the image to the right. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's 5, but you see where I'm going. The line that is slanted to the left is pointing to the 4 ether zone 6 million years ago. So right here, and this is the same. All right. The line that is slanted to the left is pointing to the 4 ether zone 6 million years ago. Look at it as the shorthand on a clock that moves gradually once every 100,000 years according to Nun science and your ancestors. All right, so we can look at the our ancestors' numerals. All right, so you got in values of 10, some of them. You got a single stroke is 1, the heel bone is 10. You have the coil or rope, 100. You had a water lily, also called the lotus, 1,000. You have a finger, 10,000. Then you have the 100,000 years, which is a tadpole of frogs. And then you have 1 million or infinity with a man with both hands raised. All right. Listen to reason. Like the Nup, there are also 12 signs of the zodiac, and these long-term signs or cycles last for 3 million years each. The 1 degree of the circle is a time duration of 100,000 years. Okay, this is what this represents up here. We're finna get into that. And the existing circle of order has 720 dots or degrees, 360 for life at the top half of the circle and 360 for death at the bottom half. The bottom half, the zodiac, is animals and their world, and the top half, the Nup, is gods and goddesses and their world. And remember, the circles exist only 1 dot or degree at a time, and that 1 degree is all of absolute nature, making a 1 degree circular change in all matter of almighty nature, and moving counterclockwise degrees by degree, and eventually completing the whole circle of all existence back at the point where the circle begins. Point 3, see form 1 and paragraph 3. The Nup is indeed represented by parts of the human person instead of animals like the zodiac has. Listen to sound right cosmic reason. Your ancestors describe all of us Nupu 9 ether tar as tadpoles and frogs because when we Nupu were in physical form, we were amphibians as stated by Nun Science written by Akhenaton. All right, so I put this right here. So you look into frogs. Frogs are amphibians. And this is why our ancestors had this as a number, 100,000 years in tadpoles or frogs, amphibians. All right, so this is a picture or drawing that Akhenaton had of the pygmy gods out of Nature Book 2, page 67. All right. Listen to reason. The flesh and blood gods and goddesses, the ancestors of the Ethiopian race, start being born after Mother Goddess Earth receive her spirit beings, the sun god and goddesses, the earth god and goddesses, and the moon god and goddesses, and her vegetation formulates and grows to maturity. Of the 9 races of gods and goddesses that inhabit the top half of the smart circle of order during the time that the top half exists, the first to be born and from the source of the Nile River in equatorial Africa was the Hydro Pygmy. Remember, the original flesh and blood gods and goddesses of planet Earth, who were the first people on orb Earth, had to be sufficiently prepared by nature spiritually, mentally, and physically to withstand the great heat, also high humidity of a very young and most powerful atmosphere which existed at birth and beginning of the universes. The Hydro Pygmy was first an ovuloid, as shown on page 67 of this presentation. By the word ovuloid, the writer means shaped like an egg or shaped elliptical, like the elongated circles of the right side and left side of shape 27 on page 61 of this topic. An ovuloid is shaped ovally everywhere it is physically practical, and for their male and female survival, they grew sunshiny black skin, kinky spirals, hair, scale-like skin, fish-like fins, webbed fingers and toes, and fish-like gills, as well as a buoy system. See pages 67 again for a pictorial view. Let it be remembered, always let it be known. Listen to reason. Evidence of the gills and buoy system still remains in human beings, but the tonsils and appendages of humanoids have no particular function now. To make it clear, tonsils and humans used to be gills, and appendages of people used to be boy systems. Introduction to the Nature, Book 2, page 63. So here we have it again. Amphibian tar pygmy god. All right, and it was like 4 feet tall. That's why the depiction of tar in ancient Kemet is very short and small. And they do say that even Bess was a pygmy. So all of this stuff is intertwined. All right, so this is the symbol of 100,000 years, which coincides with the nature information. The pygmy gods and goddesses live for 36 million years in the top half of existence. All right, this is another smack circle out of Afro Uno's books. This is the top section where the 9 pygmy god races lived at, or 9 ether tar. The positive ethereal science is the nature of nature called noon, will condition the minds of the positives among people on planet Earth and send them on that path of the mental resurrection with positive knowledge and true culture, and the road to physical restoration of life without death for 36 million years for flesh and blood God beings and spirit beings alike. Introduction to the Nature, Book 1, page 239. This is why the glyph for 1 million years is a man kneeling with his hands up as if he's holding eternity above him. This is the upper world of the smack circle of order. All right. So we look at it again, a million or infinity. When you go to the introduction to the Nature, Book 3, this is the picture, and I had my wife superimposed this at the bottom. At the top is infinity. Okay, so our ancestors was well aware of long sequences of time that most people in this modern time think that our ancestors didn't know. Yes, we did. All right, introduction to the Nature, Book 3, page 37, image redone by Marsha Tabu Uno Aet Nupu. Now we get back to how the Phoenician race were descendants of 6 ether sunshine via Mother Earth's 6 ether clay. Listen to reason. The word monkey means moon key, also mankind, which are other ways of saying moonkind, and indeed the name Funk means the sun by way of the moon, as in Thebes, Phoebe, and Phoenix. So the phrase and expression Funk monkey means people of the sun via the moon. This also means after they were given life by your sun and mentally controlled by your second son, Jupiter, Ma'at Horus, and the moon. This is shown by the baboon holding the eye of Horus. The baboon representing the moon god Tahuti. Horus's eye representing the sun, Jupiter, its eye/womb, and its sun god Horus. All right, I went in already on this in a few videos back that the so-called red spot on Jupiter is her womb, and Jupiter and Saturn are suns. They're not stars, but they're suns. And here you can see Tahuti, which represent the moon itself, and the moon god Tahuti holding the eye, because both of these powers of nature were controlling how the Phoenician race, which is the Arab, move in the bottom half. And to this day, the symbol of Islam is what? A moon. Okay, but they live where? In Arabia, where it's hot at, and a lot of them is still living in Kemet right now. All right, so they go back to ape man, not ape. And this is why you see movies with so much love of the ape and the orangutan and the chimpanzee and all that stuff, because mankind themselves have a connection to these animals to a certain extent. All right. This is a video I did, the Book of Jutah, where it explains how Jupiter is called Horus, on the temple ceiling of the Dendera. All right, and so the other planets are called Horus and stuff like that. Philosophically, the sun rules the top half of the smack circle of order during the time that the top half exists, and the moon rules the bottom half, which is now, although it is waning in negative power. Philosophically, the sun and the moon are opposites in nature in this part of the universe, for the sun represents the living and the moon symbolizes the dead. The letter by letter of the sun is 9, and the letter by letter number of the moon is 6. This way, the letter S is the 19th letter of the English alphabet, the letter U is the 12th, the letter I is the 9th, and the letter N is the 14th letter of the same alphabet. S is 19, U is 21, N is 14 equals 54, 5 plus 4 equals 9. And sin, S is 19, I is 9, and N equals 14 equals 42, and 4 plus 2 is 6. Sin is an ancient name of the moon. Introduction to the Nature Book 2, page 108 in part. So the sun adds up to 9 and the word moon adds up to 6. Let's look at some quick words to show and prove. So this is the alphabet, so if y'all want to add up names, you could do it this way, even backwards too. But this is how this is done. This is gematria. Let's look at some solar words. All right, so when you go into my video I did up above, Utah part 6, Venus is definitely a hot planet, and it's also called Horus in the Dendera on the ceiling. So that's why I put her here. So you can see it's 81, 18, 54, 27, Ahmose 72, 27, 90, 36, Horus 81, 27, 54, 27, Jupiter 99, 36, 90, 45, Sun 54, 9, 27, 18. All right, all 9s. Now the lunar words. So you can see all of the numbers, all of these add up to 6. When you add them up, then break them down to the common denominator. All right. And these are all lunar names: Thoth, baboon, ape-like man, anthropoid, Phoenicians, and the moon. Listen to Sound Right Cosmic Reason. If you didn't notice, the other numbers not in red also add up to 6 when added together. Stay tuned for part 3. 2 minute comment, peace, and wartime.